Deputy Michael Connor, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. First of all, Minister, thank you for being here.
It's very disappointing to think that there isn't a senior minister here to discuss this issue. No disrespect to you whatsoever intended, but surely an issue as important as this deserves the right to have a senior minister before us. But obviously, when it comes to this issue about an asylum pact, it's a deal done by your dirty government, and it will not be forgotten by the people. Ireland is at a critical point with a huge 28,875 international protection applicants living in 282 centres as of April 17, 2024. The country is struggling with a severe lack of housing and overstretched public services, leading to unacceptable situations like migrants living in tents on the streets, not enough housing for citizens and not enough places for tourists to stay. The cost of the International Protection Accommodation Service IPAS, not including the cost of Ukrainian refugees, has jumped from 191 million in 2021 to a shocking 653 million in 2023. It's expected to put a massive $1 billion burden on Irish taxpayers in 2024 because of the government's unwavering commitment to a policy of welcoming all asylum seekers in force without asking taxpayers, raising big democratic and financial worries. The government is not sharing the Attorney General's opinion and Department's advice on the negative effects of a yes vote in the March 8 referendums. This makes people doubt if the government is being open about the consequences and costs of joining the European Union EU Migration and Asylum Pact. Ireland, like Denmark, has the special legal right to opt out of some parts of the Pact. There is no good reason for Ireland to join the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, which would force the country to accept more asylum seekers on top of many international protection applicants already coming in, especially when there is no legal requirements to do so. The EU Migration and Asylum Pact would let the EU make immigration decisions for Ireland. If it's ratified, it would be the biggest transfer of Irish constitutional powers from Ireland to Brussels in the country's history. Joining this extreme pact would mean giving up any right to block future changes, including possible increases in migrant relocation quotas decided by a majority vote. Ireland has a special legal right to opt out of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact under Protocol number 21 of the Treaty of Lisbon. This gives an opt-in or opt-out choice on individual proposals in the areas of freedom, security and justice. But the Irish voters have not been asked if they want to transfer national power on immigration matters to the EU. The Asylum and Migration Management Regulation, AMMR, a main part of the Pact, threatens to override Ireland's power as outlined in the Constitution by giving the EU Commission the power to decide the number of reallocated asylum seekers. Ireland must take and the financial contributions required from taxpayers. The AMMR requires at least 30,000 asylum seekers to be distributed across the bloc each year, with member states forced to pay 20,000 for each rejected migrant, and the EU has the power to increase these figures. The formula for distributing reallocated asylum seekers application under Article 44R of the AMMR means that Ireland would have to accept more reallocated asylum seekers than most of the EU member states because of its high gross domestic product from the multinational sector. If Ireland doesn't comply with these quotas, it could face legal actions. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk refuses to accept any relocated asylum seekers under the Pact. This Pact takes away national power with decisions made by unelected EU officials, not Irish authorities. The government's claim that the Pact new rules will improve migrant checks and speed up the return of unapproved asylum seekers is misleading. These tasks can be done immediately without joining the Pact. Minister Roderick O'Gorman has planned to accept 15,000 to 20,000 asylum and international protection seekers every year is unsustainable and could get worse if the Pact is ratified. The government doesn't have public support for this big decision, which wasn't mentioned in any of the government's party's 2020 election manifestos. The government needs to realise the signing of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact is irresponsible and a big infringement on constitutional sovereignty and democratic principles. They shouldn't use this majority in the House of the Oireachtas to prove the Pact against Ireland's best interests. The handling of the immigration has become an international embarrassment, with Dublin City turned into a tent city for thousands, and Cork City for that matter too, waiting for the unavailable accommodation. This crisis is hurting community spirit, especially in small rural villages. The Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, must admit her loss of control control, and Roderick O'Gorman for that matter, must admit he's lost the control, and make way for re-election and strict border controls. Staff must be hired to prioritise processing and fast-tracking for those already here. Support genuine asylum seekers, and deport those who do not qualify, while ignoring state-funded NGOs. Dublin City has become a tin city for thousands waiting for housing due to the international immigration crisis. This shows the government's failure to manage immigration. The government's silence has made the humanitarian crisis worse and left our communities feeling helpless. This lack of leadership has created uncertainty, affecting our communities' safety and sense of belonging. If the government doesn't address this crisis, our country could face social and economic instability. The government is unfairly blaming Britain while ignoring the influx of asylum seekers from the EU countries. They need to take a comprehensive approach to the asylum seekers crisis, no matter where people are coming from. The government's refusal to admit their poor handling of the immigration has disrupted small communities, businesses and tourism in Ireland.